Rain had been falling over Maplewood since evening, turning the streets into mirrors of red and blue traffic lights. Ethan Cole tightened his grip on the grocery bags as he hurried toward his old sedan. At 36, life had taught him to move fast and think faster. Since losing his wife 3 years ago, every second of his day belonged to responsibility. Mornings started with making breakfast for his 8-year-old daughter Lily, afternoons were spent driving deliveries across town, and nights ended with checking homework while pretending he wasn't exhausted. Being a single father had carved something deep into him. Not weakness, not strength exactly, but endurance. "Dad, you forgot the cereal," Lily said from the passenger seat, her nose pressed against the foggy window. Ethan exhaled and gave a tired smile. "No, I didn't. I just hoped you wouldn't notice." She giggled. That laugh kept him going. He had just loaded the final grocery bag into the trunk when something unusual caught his attention. Across the empty side street, near the back wall of an abandoned warehouse, a dark figure lay motionless on the wet pavement. At first, Ethan assumed it was a drunk person sleeping in the rain. Maplewood had its share of rough nights and rough people. Most drivers would have looked away and left. Ethan almost did too. But then lightning flashed. For half a second, the street lit up bright white, and he saw a police badge glinting under the rain. His body froze. Someone was down. And not just anyone. A cop. His pulse jumped as he handed Lily his phone. "Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone unless it's me." Her smile vanished. "Dad, what's wrong?" "I need to check something." He ran across the flooded street, shoes splashing through dirty water. As he got closer, the scene turned worse than he imagined. A young female officer lay against the wall, soaked in rain, barely conscious. Blood mixed with water near her side, washing into the drain. She was still breathing. But only just. Ethan dropped to his knees beside the officer, rain soaking through his jacket within seconds. Up close, she looked younger than he had expected, maybe late 20s. Her uniform was torn near the shoulder, and there was a deep cut along her side where blood kept seeping through the fabric. "Officer, can you hear me?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Her eyelids fluttered. For a moment, he thought she wouldn't respond. Then her lips moved. "They set me up," she whispered, each word strained. "Not random. Inside." Ethan leaned closer. "Inside what? Who did this?" She struggled to breathe, her fingers weakly clutching his sleeve. "Police!" The word hit him like ice. "Police?" Before he could ask more, her hand loosened and dropped. No, stay with me." Ethan pressed his palm against the wound, trying to slow the bleeding the way he had once seen in a first aid video. Blood warmed his hand despite the cold rain. He reached for his phone, then remembered Lily still had it in the car. He turned toward the street and shouted, "Lily, call emergency services now!" Through the fogged-up windshield, he saw her fumbling with the phone, panic written across her small face. The officer suddenly tensed. Her eyes snapped open wider, filled with fear. "They're coming back!" she gasped. Ethan's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" Her trembling hand lifted slightly, pointing toward the far end of the alley. Headlights. A black SUV rolled slowly into view. No siren, no urgency, just a calm, deliberate approach. Every instinct in Ethan screamed that something was wrong. If these were officers responding to a distress call, why were they moving like predators? The SUV stopped 20 yards away. The engine remained running. Driver's door opened. A tall man stepped out, wearing plain clothes but carrying himself like authority. Even in the rain, Ethan could see the cold focus in his posture. Then the man spoke. "Step away from her," he said. Not loudly, not angrily, but with the kind of control that made Ethan instantly afraid. Ethan didn't move. His hand stayed pressed against the officer's wound while rain streamed down his face. The man from the SUV stood still, letting the silence stretch between them. Two more figures stepped out from the back doors, both broad-shouldered, both watching him with unsettling patience. Something about them felt wrong, not just suspicious, trained. "Sir?" the tall man said again, his voice calm, almost polite. "You're interfering with police business." Ethan swallowed. Then show me a badge. The man smiled faintly, but he didn't reach for his pocket. That was all Ethan needed to know. Behind him, the injured officer forced herself to speak, her voice barely audible. Don't trust them. The tall man's expression changed instantly. The politeness vanished. Move! Ethan's heart hammered so hard it hurt. He wasn't a fighter. He was a delivery driver who spent most days carrying grocery boxes and reminding his daughter to brush her teeth. He had never been in a situation like this. But he knew one thing. If he stepped away, this woman would die. His mind raced. Lily was still in the car. That thought hit hardest. He couldn't fight 3 men and protect both of them. Then he heard it. A sharp sound from the street behind. Sirens. Real sirens. Loud and fast. Blue and red lights reflected across the wet alley walls. The 3 men turned. For the first time, Ethan saw uncertainty in their faces. Lily. She must have reached emergency dispatch. The tall man cursed under his breath. We're leaving. One of the others snapped back. What about her? Too late. They moved fast, jumping back into the SUV. Tires screeched against the soaked pavement as the vehicle sped away just seconds before 2 patrol cars tore into the alley. Uniformed officers rushed out with weapons drawn. Hands where we can see them! Ethan slowly raised both hands, blood still covering them. I'm not the threat, he said, breathing hard. She needs help, now. Paramedics dropped beside the injured officer. One officer looked from Ethan's bloodied hands to the disappearing SUV tracks. Then his eyes widened. The female officer weakly grabbed his wrist. With the last of her strength, she whispered 3 words. Check. Internal affairs? And everything around them went silent. The officer's final words echoed in everyone's mind. Check internal affairs. Then her hand fell limp as paramedics rushed her into the ambulance. The alley that had been full of chaos suddenly felt unnaturally quiet, except for the distant wail of sirens and the rain hitting concrete. Ethan stood there shaking, blood on his hands, trying to process what had just happened. Detective Harris approached him, his expression unreadable. I need every detail, he said. Ethan repeated everything. The black SUV, the 3 men, the tall one giving orders, the officer's warning. He even described the little things he almost ignored. The man's silver watch, the scrape on the SUV's door, the calm way they spoke. Harris listened carefully, saying nothing. By sunrise, the entire department was under pressure. The injured officer was identified as Officer Maya Bennett, one of the cleanest names in the department. Quiet, disciplined, respected. What most officers didn't know was that Maya had been secretly helping Internal Affairs investigate missing evidence from narcotics lockup. Large drug seizures had been disappearing. Someone inside the force was stealing and reselling evidence, and Maya had found proof. Within hours, sealed investigations turned into arrests. The truth stunned the city. 7 officers were taken into custody. Not rookies, veterans, decorated officers with spotless public records. Among them was a lieutenant no one suspected, someone trusted by nearly everyone in the department. News spread fast, reporters surrounded police headquarters, public trust cracked overnight. But 2 days later came the moment that mattered most. Maya woke up. Her first question wasn't about the arrests. It was about Ethan. When he visited with Lily, Maya looked at him for a long moment. You could have walked away, she said quietly. Ethan glanced at his daughter before answering. I almost did. Maya blinked. He continued, voice soft. But if my daughter were lying there someday, I'd pray someone stopped. Lily squeezed his hand. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Months later, Ethan received a Civilian Bravery Award. Standing before the department, he felt uncomfortable under the applause. But Lily stood beside him, smiling proudly. That night taught him something he would never forget. Real courage doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it looks like stopping your car in the rain when everyone else keeps driving. Moral. Doing the right thing often begins with a simple choice. Not to look away when someone needs help.